we have to evolve. Generations ago, your granddad and your great-granddad, they came through world wars and they had to produce food. And they were encouraged to do so by government directives, which they did very successfully.
Which isn't quite the case anymore now. Food production's sort of a secondary priority now, really, rightly or wrongly. In my working lifetime, food production has stepped down a bit and the environment has come to the fore. And so we now work with the environment, and in your working lifetime, it will become more and more so, looking after the environment. I think it's finding that balance between the two, isn't it? Yeah, finding some renewable energies and recycling wherever you can. Sustainability. Sustainability and extensifying farming instead of intensifying it. It needs to be extensified to be able to... Lower numbers over larger areas, as far as livestock's concerned. That's the way things are going to go. Clean water, clean air, carbon capture, renewable energies, recycling, to look after Earth for another generation, for them to be able to pick up where you leave off. So there's some green left by the time they get here. Always remember your heritage, where you've come from and what you do, and there'll always be farming involved in it and food production within it, but not as intensive as it's been. We've got to evolve to look after the world, look after the environment. It's a bigger picture than just one lifetime, isn't it? There's various lifetimes to take into consideration, and you don't forget your heritage, but you have to be prepared to evolve. Freedom, space, animals, just loved every minute of it, you know. Watching nature reproduce every year, and it just sticks with you, you know. Yeah, that's the best part of the experience, really. Connection to nature and remembering summers, chucking bales about. Plenty of pals, plenty of fresh air, plenty of animals around. I was born into it, really. It's just something you pick up as your childhood, and you either run with it or you don't. Not everybody gets it. Not everybody gels with it. It's hard work, and you can't blame anybody for not gelling with it. But I love it. It's my life. It's what I was born to do. Plenty of late nights sat on Buddy's seat next to him. Yeah. 12, 18-hour days sat next to him eating ham sandwiches. Falling asleep. Knackered, falling asleep in tractor, yeah. You used to be able to sleep on a washing line back then. Didn't matter how loud it was, I could always get to sleep. He still has trouble waking up now. Here we go. That's farming. You've got to do it when weather conditions are there, and you just have to get on with it, you know. If it's a long day, it's a long day. There's no start time, there's no finish time. You just keep going until you've done what you're doing that day. That's how my dad was, my dad, and your granddad and your great-granddad. They did everything for the family, and to the best of their abilities and to the best of whatever they could afford to do, you know. It was never about them being rich out of anything they did. It was all putting together for a future generation, which is a larger ethos of nature growing and replacing itself each year. You grow a family and replace a family with another generation. During this pandemic that we've all been living through, you know,
there's more people walking about woodlands and paths and such, and we have to accept that they're there and they're getting fresh air and exercise and connecting with nature. And
which is good for society, which is then equally just as good for us.
We need to embrace it, so long as they're not causing damage, breaking fences down, and feel as if we're banging his head on a brick wall at times.
Pre-concept that it's farmer with a pitchfork chasing people away, and it's not what we want to do at all. Just need people to respect countryside code,
yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Just
take the litter home with
take
them.
your rubbish with you, don't break glass, try and keep out of crop fields, try and keep away from livestock.
And take your motorbikes where you're allowed to be, not just wherever you want to be. You know, they're the biggest bugbear for us is motorbikes.
Yeah, they're up there.
If you want nature and access to the nature, fine, but respect it, fine. They can have that access. We're here to embrace them fully.
People walk countryside, they see them lovely kept pastured fields and straight line crops and hedgerows and prune trees and less litter when it's been picked up, and they think they don't realise that that's a 7-day-a-week job, 365 days a year, making the countryside look like that. If it weren't for farmers out doing fencing, keeping cattle, looking after sheep, planting crops, it'd be bush and shrub and nettle and bramble, and there'd be no walking anywhere because it'd be intraversible.
Well, when I bought Newland in June of 2000, it was a dustbin. It had been left to rack and ruin, and there was more mattresses and fridges and tyres.
Spent 4 weeks, I remember I was sat on Buddy say we spent 4 weeks with a flail mower just knocking down nettles.
It was... I wondered what I'd taken on at times, but it's beautiful now. It's beautiful. We don't carry the respect that we used to carry, but I think that is a lot because of the attitude of older generations of farmers, get off my land sort of thing, instead of encouraging people to enjoy it and educate them to enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, opening dialogue is paramount. It's got to be there. That's why something like this is going to be helpful. To show people the attitude we take towards having them here. We want them here. Yeah. And we want to preserve it for them as much as else. I don't consider myself a landowner, I consider myself a custodian. It's not just for me and my kids, it's for everybody and their kids. They could feel free to come and, you know, fetch a nose bag and feed a cow. Things like that, just little things. Education for kids, bushcraft tutorials, beekeeping, that's something I'd love to look forward to. Just getting people out here and learning how best to take care of it. When the respect stops, that's where the line stops. If you're going to come and be nice to the place, then you're welcome. Yeah. So, and that's the be-all, end-all. As long as you're right with job, we're right with them.
We're going down the line of minimal cultivations, or even no cultivations in some instances. We are just debating on direct drilling so that there are no cultivations. We just re-sow without any cultivations.
To promote the ecology in the soil, ants, burrowing bees.
We are just looking at a solar farm with wildflower meadow in between the solar so that it encourages the bees and insects, and then extensified sheep grazing in between the solar panels. We believe that's the way forward, in that we're producing clean energy renewable energy and looking after the wildlife. Follow the modern science, but less intensification. If you like, going back to a more peaceful time, less stressful time of farming. We have to evolve with it, just like everything else. Every industry has to evolve, and we are no exception. We have to evolve to stay current and stay in business. Here at Newland, we've left areas to go wild, to revert to nature and however nature wants to take it. We've built some lakes, of which we'd like to build more, because the water brings in its own nature.
We've planted some trees, reinstated some hedgerows.
Yeah.
Which is something we want to do a lot more of as well, particularly tree planting.
Fenced up all the parkland for the cattle to graze.
We'd like to join the woodland belts together, so as it make more of a wildlife corridor the whole way through, which is one of the intentions going forward this next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Unfortunately, anything that we do have in our minds for doing it in that respect, we always have at the back of our mind that HS2 is going to come straight through the middle of it and undo all that we're doing. But we mustn't be too critical. If that helps the country to prosper and keep up to date with our neighbours, our European neighbours, etc., then we have to accept the change and hope that when it does come through, we can put a scheme together with them that will compensate as much as possible.
To maintain as much as possible. There is certain spots that we intend to fence round entirely, so as it can keep dogs out mainly is the issue, to try and protect nesting birds.
Yeah.
Have an area at least of completely untouched nature reserve, which then obviously, hopefully, it will spill out of the reserve into the rest of the estate. Yeah, so that's another intention we have going down the line. Alongside the lakes there, obviously, which is becoming more and more a community hub almost. It's a place for gathering these days, which is something I like to see. It's nice to see young people, coming in and enjoying the countryside. But again, it's just a matter of making sure they do it in a safe way, particularly around the water.
And educate them to doing it safely and looking after the nature that's there.
Yeah.
Bird life has done nothing but increase down here. Especially since we set up a clay pigeon shoot, and they've policed it quite well, haven't they?
The irony is that a shoot has actually helped because it's put protectors basically on site 7 days a week, and they're not shooting birds; they're only shooting clay pigeons, and so they're here keeping essentially kids with air rifles off.
When I first came down here, every other person had an air rifle with them, and if it moved, it got shot. There was no wildlife here, you know. Now it's full of wildlife, but it would be lovely to see deer back. It would.
That's been the most obvious decline. You see, I don't think I've seen one this year yet.
No.
Usually in the spring you'd see a couple farrowing. I think I saw one last year, and I haven't seen one this year yet. In years gone by, you used to see 2 or 3 or 4. Right now, we've got strips in of what's called EFA, which is primarily for nesting birds, land nesting birds, ground nesting birds.
It's a wild bird mix that feeds them through the winter. We've built a beetle bank at Rothwell.
We have owl boxes up. We try to keep out at layer bats as much as possible. And we've got quite a healthy bat colony. Quite a healthy snake population, yeah. Yeah, you get a lot of them. This spring, this time of year, they start coming out and basking, particularly up that track there, going up round that field. If it's a quiet day and it hasn't had a lot of traffic on it, as you go up it, you see them all scurrying off out at way at foot traffic, where they've been out into the sun. Woodpeckers, that's the main one for me. I've always thought it would be beautiful green wings on them. Hedgerows, as daft as it sounded, you know, a row of hedges, that's places for birds to nest, you know, little sproggies and things like that. Every little helps for them.
This is the old stable block. This was converted to a house, living accommodation, when the old hall, which stood across there, was demolished. When old halls and houses became too expensive to repair. And the horses used to live below, and it was living accommodation for the stable people above. And they made this into the main house and converted the stables below into the main house. It's a beautiful facade, but unfortunately that's all it is, just that facade. It'd be nice to be able to go back and have a snapshot into everyday life 200 or 300 years ago down here. It'd be wonderful, but to even think of putting the old buildings back together would ruin us. It'd ruin me and it'd ruin him. We couldn't afford to do it, you know, unfortunately. It would be a wonderful thing to do. I'd love to do it, but it's just not doable.
It's a little bit sickening because sort of institutions that are meant to be here to protect buildings like this, and they are in fact doing the opposite here. I don't know about other cases, but here they are actively putting boundaries in the way.
We'd love to pull these trees out, and we have had people come and look at it and they've said there's no profit margin in it. Nobody's going to do anything without there's a profit margin. The cost of doing it and the red tape and legislation around doing it is so prohibitive, it's unreal, you know, which is a crying shame. Same with the buildings at the back there, that make some beautiful houses. If there was something that could be done that didn't bankrupt us, we would do it. But we full well know it's a white elephant. It will bankrupt us. Or what is the point of doing it in that respect? You know? It's a crying shame it was ever allowed to get into the state it's got into, you know. But unfortunately, it's gone too far to be able to bring it back. You know?
Yeah.
If there was a community living down here, you see, that community in itself would police it.
It's just the ethos. If you fill it with the right sort of people, the wrong sort of people would just naturally melt away.
Oh, they'll just go somewhere else, won't they?
It's difficult to do. It's difficult to work within the boundaries of what we're allowed to do. Councils and planning permissions to try and work towards cultivating a friendly community. It's a shame.
And we don't actually, personally, I don't need a profit margin in it because I'd just like to see it done. I don't need the profit margin at the end, but obviously anybody that you bring in needs a profit margin, you know.
And so it'll spoil a bit of the view, will that train? Put straight through the middle of the estate.
Straight through the heart of it, really. This is the heart of the estate.
Luckily, all the grazing's on one side and all the arables on the other.
We'll have to keep a lot less cattle because it will take a big old slice out of the middle of it. It just spoils the aesthetics of the place, doesn't it, and the tranquility of the place. You know.
Not a fan of dogs. Have to be careful if you've got dogs in. You don't want dog too close to you because it can cause a bit of chaos sometimes. Go on. It's not so bad when you know the animal's inside out. You can plan what's going to happen, but dog walkers that don't know what's happening get the sense in a spot of bother quite quickly.
Where's your babies? Where's your babies?
Go on. Go on.
When I bought the place in June 2000, there was a planning permission already in place that the previous owner had got for an open cast mine to bring some coal out. Which, if I'm honest, when I was buying it, I didn't know. It was Peter Kirk at the brickyard who told me when I had bought it that there was a planning permission, and when I looked into it, there was. And down the bottom here, it was a site of massive dereliction and fly tipping, etc. Some old steep-sided brick quarries that were dangerous, an old brick kiln that was falling in. It was dangerous. So we decided the best thing to do would be to dig the coal out and return it to nature and put some lakes in. And that's exactly what we did. And though I say it myself, it looks quite nice now. Quite nice. It's maturing itself quite nicely and a big attraction for wildlife. To pass on a beautiful piece of heaven to enjoy. And this is the lake that we created after the open cast mine. And it's a beautiful little haven, isn't it? We could have put it back to a field, but that's just a field, isn't it? We've got plenty of fields. And I think it looks nice. You can stand here and you can be anywhere you want to be in the world. It's a beautiful place. You could be in Swiss Alps, you could be in Canada, you could be anywhere you wanted to be, you know. And it's nice to see how nature's reclaimed it as well and made it its own, you know. It's not all about taking in life, you have to put something back. I suppose this is my little bit that I've put back, you know. Yeah. People maybe think I got rich out of digging the coal out of it. The truth is, not one single penny. Not one single penny. Never drew a penny for it. UK Coal got the royalties. The contractor got his payment. Mr. Hughes did not get one single penny. Not one penny, nothing. But I got that. And that's priceless, you know? That's priceless, I like that, it's lovely. Yeah. I just wish everyone respected it in the same way. And what we'd like to do is plant some more trees on that bank in there, on that top. But the last time we planted it, somebody set fire to it. It would have had a belt of trees all down there, but they burnt them. So. Proud of it. Indeed, this interview was made me realise how proud I am of my own son, in that he has a vision for the place, you know. I suppose it's something that we don't talk about enough, and I can leave it in peace, know it'll get looked after. It's seen the graft, no end of it. But then, that's what I was brought up with, grafting, and it's what I know. So it's never been a toil to me, the graft, the physical work of doing it. It's the mental anguish that goes with everything that's the hard bit, you know. Yeah. You hope that the next generation pick up on that ethos and pass it on to theirs. That's the big thing, isn't it? You know. My adult working life of this place, yeah. I have built another farm on the side of it, but the majority of my adult working life I've put into this, renovating this. There's a bit of passion there. When I was Ted's age, it was farm every acre, every square foot you can. And it's not anymore, it's changed. It was push for intensity, but now it needs to be opposite direction and extensify. And I think he's got it.
We'll see, won't we? Feel very proud, thankful, lucky.
It's difficult letting go, but at least if I let go now, I've got time to see them getting on with it and making a success of it. And that's what it's all about. It's longevity. If we just did it for ourselves and what we could get out of it,
you wouldn't do it for very long.
No. It would be a sad day. It would be a sad day. You have to keep it intact for other generations to live out of it and enjoy, just like we've enjoyed. We've got to evolve to look after the world, to look after the environment. It's a bigger picture than just one lifetime, isn't it? There's various lifetimes to take into consideration, and you don't forget your heritage, but you have to be prepared to evolve.